Welcome very much to Conversations, where it's a pleasure to welcome to the program an old friend, Tuli Kupferberg, who is of legendary fame, having been a major part of the group, the Fugs, and Tuli, welcome very much to Conversations.
Nice to be here.
Goes
I'm not going to Hollywood on you. The lights, when you get old, older,
Yeah.
the lights sort of bother you.
Yeah, it can. They're a little bright. Yeah, it hasn't gotten to me yet, but it will, before long.
No. Don't say that.
All right. Anyway, it's so good to see you. We were just reminiscing back about when first we did a program with you. It must have been back at the beginning of cable television in New York City. It had to have been about 1973 or 74, where you came up and you were a guest of this program I was doing then up on 125th Street, back when Teleprompter had their studio up there.
I think was Ed must have been with me.
No, I don't think he was. Somebody was there.
Oh,
Lanny,
maybe Lanny, yeah. Maybe the revolting theater days.
Yeah, but it was really fun and everything. And now you've been doing cable television, but maybe you tell me Ed Saunders is doing some cable television up in upstate, up at Woodstock, right? But why don't you share it? Because there'll be people viewing and so forth. Your own background a little bit, because you were involved with this group out of the '60s, the Fugs, that is developing. He's got.
Shall I count the ways? I don't know. You got to ask me a particular question.
Well, all right. When did you meet Ed Saunders and get the Fugs started?
I met Ed a little before 1965, I guess, in the East Village, and we used to read at a place called Le Metro. Which was actually a furniture store, and which was a front for a bookie business.
Right.
But since the guy had the furniture there already, tables and couches, he figured he might as well start a coffee house. And then he figured he might as well get people come there by having poetry readings. I met Ed there, and everyone read there.
Yeah, it was on the local.
Burroughs and lots of other people, and anyone who came to town read it. It was on 2nd Avenue around 9th Street.
2nd Avenue and 9th.
Yeah, and we used to go after the reading to a place called the Dome, which was the Polish National Home on St. Mark's Place, which is now a rehab center. There was a bar, an ethnic bar, in the basement, and I guess it must have been the beatnik era. And the bar owner thought he might as well make some money, and he put in some jukeboxes. We were the freaks, I guess. We had a card to get in. And we listened to the Beatles and the Stones, and Ed and I thought they were the early Beatles. Thought we could do lyrics that were as good, and we were right. But the Beatles got as good as us later on.
They caught up.
They caught up. So
with
that's how we started.
So in '65, it was early '65. You just met, right?
Yeah, we met earlier, but we didn't play until '65.
And then you tapped into some of the poetry and that sort of thing. You were involved in poetry.
We thought we would elevate.
The discourse.
Well, pop music in America for a long time. Some of it was wonderful. Don't get me wrong. The 20s and 30s and 40s music. We thought we would. It was courtship music, Moon, June, and Croon, and we thought we would elevate. What we thought in poetry, by then you could say whatever you want about anything, and you call it poetry, and you could get away with it.
Yeah.
So we thought we would do that for pop music, and I think we did, and
what
other people did too.
Yeah, was it you and Ed got together first, and when did Ken Weaver come in?
Well, he was
the Fugs
he was a poet there too.
Yeah.
He had been dishonorably discharged from the Air Force for, I think, smoking some kind of herb.
Yes.
And he put his dishonorable discharge in his room in a place of honor. So he'd come back from the Cold War.
And he was one of those back in '65, right?
Yeah. The best story he told was he was an Air Force intelligence. They would fly from Turkey into the Russian border over Tiflis, Tbilisi, and Georgia. And they would pick up every single call for a cab for miles around on their radios. And then they would send that to be deciphered by intelligence, I guess, at the command center.
Yeah. He was. And then what was the first time? What did you do? The first things you did? Did you do them on a tape recorder in a basement somewhere? How did it get started?
Oh, well,
we
started giving concerts. Our first concert was in Ed's store, the Peace Eye on East 10th Street. And then we played, I think we played at Diane DePrima's Theater on East 7th Street. I think it was an Ukrainian communist hall. And then we played at Jonas Makis's
Millennium?
the theater on St. Mark's Place, which he ran, I think, on and off, and where Jack Smith's movie got busted. Jonas was arrested. Which, lively times.
Yeah, weren't they lively times?
Ed's store was, I came home one night and Ed's store was broken into.
Really?
Yeah, by the cops.
Really?
Well, the cops came and they said there'd been a robbery there, but they confiscated all this stuff and put a pornography charge against what he was selling there.
Oh, good Lord, yeah.
He won the case, but it was,
yeah, there was something happening there, and there was something happening in the early 60s, and it was a heady, interesting time. Some people probably get sick of hearing it, but it really was something blowing in the wind, like Bobby Dylan said at that time. It seems to me, anyway.
yeah, well, you like to think that the time you're living in is, I still like to think that the 60s are, well, they say the 60s are coming back.
Really?
The 1860s.
The 1860s.
But I guess there must be periods that are more exciting than others.
Yeah.
Especially if you're young.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
That's always the exciting.
You think so? Yeah, there's probably something to be said for that. When you're young, you think you got that. But it just seems to me like there was something special about that time.
Well,
maybe there was something going on,
Well, the 1840s were wonderful in America with Brook Farm and the Transcendentalists, and the 20s were good.
Yeah.
I hope we don't have to wait that long anymore. The 30s were interesting.
Yeah, that's true. The 40s with all those fancy dance tunes.
Yeah,
you had that awful war. Yeah, right. 50s
war.
were sort of even out, right? But that was a nice time for beats because there were only so few of them then.
Well,
Ray Bremser used to talk. Ray.
Yeah.
Bremser talked about how it was really good in the late 50s when he, because it was like the hippies were taking over where the Beats had laid the groundwork for that, and the Bohemians before that. So there were fewer of them, but then it just became sort of a whole national cultural expression in the 60s.
Well, there was an intimacy in the village.
Yeah.
I guess it still exists
the artists,
now.
yeah.
It still exists now. I think it started with Henri Murger in Paris in the 1840s. You know what his day job was?
No, I don't.
He wrote La Bohème.
Yeah, okay. No, I didn't, but all right.
He wrote the book, I think it was La Vie de Bohème, on which the opera is based. And his day job was a journalist on the Weekly Millinery Journal, which they had even then. Can you imagine that?
Anything to survive, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what people do even now. I guess after, when the royal court won't support you, you're really shit out of luck. You have to just take any job.
Yeah.
But then again, Goethe was a minor official in one of the small German kingdoms.
Yeah.
One of his jobs was to sign the death warrant. Every job has its advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, and every era has its advantages and disadvantages. But I still claim that there was something going on in that period that was really still, it's got to be duplicated again. The spirit was so high, there was camaraderie.
And why do you think it happened
then? Sense, I don't know what it was, Bucky Fuller, who was sort of one of the people who was sort of trying to get a hold of things. They didn't know what to do with him, how to classify him. They finally called him a poet, Bucky Fuller. But he thought we were transferring from a situation where there had been scarcity to where we had a technologically augmented capability to begin to see post-scarcity as a reality, which would be a major event if that were the case.
I think a lot of the young people felt they weren't so tied to at least the middle class people. Of course, everyone else, including the minorities, didn't feel that way, and the working class. I think they did feel, the young people felt that they didn't have to bind themselves to the wheel of wage slavery.
Yes, right.
They felt that way. I don't think they feel that way anymore. And the war did it. You know, the Vietnam War really mobilized the college kids.
Yeah.
And they were the great moving force in that period.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, if that thing is they didn't have to tie themselves to the wage slavery, I mean, you could always tie yourself not to wage slavery by being unemployed and poor, you know, which is a possibility. But whether there's some new sort of capability that the Times herald, some sort of a liberation or something.
Well, technically it was there.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could all work 10 hours a week and be in, have everything we really need. I don't think we need 200 dry breakfast cereals.
Right. Or they may have been marking something that is yet to be realized in the fullness of it, because they put the old systems in place and put the screws on and put the old systems of social, political, economic control back in place with great vehemency, and they still serve. But there's still people who are talking about there's some sort of a transformation called for that hasn't been realized, and that sort of thing.
Well, it was all those promises of that
Murray
automation.
Bookchin wrote. Remember, Murray Bookchin wrote on post-scarcity, you know, that kind of thing, and there was that. But
of course, even then, the young people, the middle-class people, they always had other stuff to fall back on that the other people didn't have, who knew. You know, I grew up in the Depression, and to me, a dime is still
yeah, it is. Thank you, Mr. Rockefeller.
A significant amount of money, of course, which it isn't.
Yeah.
But it was possible. I'm sure you as an economist must know, if you reorganize the distribution of resources, to do so much better than to eliminate scarcity.
Oh, absolutely.
But we haven't.
Yeah,
you know.
we haven't. But I mean, it might be it's held in there artificially in a certain sense, and it might be the last dike to. I mean, the last thing to go before they begin to get things set up in an appropriate kind of way. Maybe it's like somebody said, the artist or the antenna of the race or something, and they've been doing it. So these are still the best of times, the worst of times, and that sort of thing. But you got together back in '65. You got started, and you put out these musical, you know, with a lot of satire and poetry and uplifting the dialogue and so forth.
Harry Smith was our first producer, and he got Folkways to put out our album. I think we were billed as a urban folk.
Urban folk?
Yeah. That's F-O-L-K, folks. Mm-hmm. And of course, all music is folk music. It's done by people.
Yeah, by the folks. Yeah.
And they were purists who didn't want to use electricity or didn't want to only believe that anonymous works were folk music. So.
But did you go through, because you had that, you know, how many albums did you actually in the end put out? How many were put out over the whole, you did the...
Well, by now we're getting, we must have done over 15 or maybe close to 20, but we did a lot. We were born again in 1984, and there were about 6 or 7 CDs of all periods, including one we did 2 years ago that are out now.
So you've got it all down on CDs now?
A lot of it, yeah, most of it.
Yeah. And is it are you satisfied with the quality and that sort of thing?
The CD, yeah.
Of the work that's there.
You mean the technical quality?
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
Yeah.
And how did you do some of the early ones? Did you do some of them in the basement tapes or something, or
well, our music was very primitive.
Yeah, and it was also sometimes done spontaneous. And
yeah, well, we've been called the first garage band, but we didn't even have a garage.
Yeah.
Or ancestors of the punk rock. Yeah. We were basically writers, but
yeah.
If you can carry a tune, you can do music, and it's all music. Speech is just bad music.
Speech is bad music. That's good.
Or uninteresting music.
Yeah.
So like there's no mystery about it. I think most people can sing.
Hitchcock said one time that movies are life with the boring parts taken out, you know. I don't know. But you did all of those, and then you've got them reissued then. All of the body of your work has been reissued. Thank goodness, it's available.
And stuff that wasn't never made it to the early vinyl records.
Yeah, right.
Concert stuff and stuff.
So that's there. And you told me, we were talking earlier, that you just got back. This is now this is May of 1997. Yeah. You just got back, and you and Ed and
well, we have a new band now with Ed and myself and Scott Petito, Toby Batty, and Stephen Taylor. And we were invited by I think they're commies, but not really Stalinist. The government of Milan invited us, and we played at a few other venues where we played at the opening in Florence of something called City Lights.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Yeah.
City Lights book too, and they were commies.
Yeah.
And
there's interesting stuff going on.
And we
disbanded the government or something.
When we came to Rome, this tall guy in a black leather jacket, a shaved head, and wearing a red army button in his lapel, greeted us. He was a very nice guy, a linguist, scholar, and he was the promoter.
Yeah,
he wasn't a great promoter.
Yeah, nice guy.
Yeah,
right.
And his politics were close enough to ours.
Yeah, and he had a good time. There's interesting.
He had a good time. You know, Italy is so.
You know who spends a lot of time in Italy is Judith Molina now.
Yeah.
And you know the Living Theater.
Right.
They go over and do a lot of things. They say there's interesting things going on over there. But you were over there for a couple of weeks or so, and went to London, and you had was it like a tour? I mean.
Oh yeah, it was.
Did you play some of the old stuff? You playing new stuff? Or what?
Both. We did both. Yeah. We like to play the new stuff.
Yeah. So is Ed's involved in you?
Oh yeah.
Who's involved? You jumped off a couple of
Ed is our commander.
Yeah.
Well, there's Stephen Taylor, who's a wonderful musician and guitar player, songwriter. Did a lot of. He toured a lot with Allen Ginsberg.
Yeah.
And Kobe Batty is a drummer, flute player, songwriter, and Scott Petito plays bass, and he knows all the technology. He runs a studio in the Woodstock region.
So you got what? You got 6 of you then involved? Five involved, right? And you're still putting out. You play the old material.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we update it a little.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of new songs.
You got oh, thank goodness, you're still putting out new songs, and the same sort of, you're still doing the satirical vein?
Yeah.
You're still, lyrics are still so as important as they have been?
Oh yeah.
Or is it becoming more musical, or?
Well, these are excellent musicians.
Yeah, that's right,
so
that's what I'm saying.
The music is good.
Yeah.
But the lyrics are I think, what distinguishes us most from...
Well, I tell you, it was the out of all of that welter of music and all of that came out of Woodstock and all of that kind of, the best music that came over the top of it all was the beautiful resonant sounds of the Fugs that came out of the 1960s.
Wow.
That's to me, that was a real creative expression that was there. And it continues now with you.
Well, who am I to deny it?
Yeah, who am I to deny it? But that's really good that you did it. So how many venues did you play on this last tour in April of 97?
We played 4 cities in Italy.
In Italy. And do you have good-sized crowds, or were there?
In Milan and in Florence we did. But you know the old saw that if you pay enough for advertising, you can always fill up the crowd, fill up the hall, but you won't get your money back.
Yeah, right.
So, some of the people knew us from before, but a lot of them.
Well, Judith told me, and she was talking in the past, Judith Molina and Hanan Reznikov, they were talking about they can go over there and they'll put on a play, and there'll be one. They'll put on. There's one Utopia. They put on a new one. They put that Hanan put together. And they'll play it to some, and there would be like maybe 12 people or something. Yeah. Then they would go to another venue, and they'd get 2,000 people in the audience, and they'd get wild reviews. But there's a sort of almost anarcho feel to what's going on in Italy that is maybe good for the arts.
Well, there's always been a strong anarchist movement in Italy.
Yeah.
There's a weekly anarchist paper, well-produced monthly magazine, and a lot of traditional well-known anarchists Malibu, I think Malatesta was well known.
And
I think Bakunin spent some time there.
He did, Bakunin, yeah. Bakunin, Kropotkin, nothing. Going back to nothing.
Bakunin, Kropotkin, Nutkin.
Nutkin, right? You're right. Yeah, that's the subtlety of the thing. Then you went over to London for a while.
Yeah,
also,
that
right?
was.
Did you perform there?
No, I went by myself. That was sort of terrifying. It's as crazy as New York, but as I always say, in New York I know where to hide. And there were a lot of depressing things in London. There were a lot of young people sleeping in the underground.
Really? Yeah.
And at least the homeless here have some kind of spirit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all they have.
Yeah.
But these kids look very depressed.
Really, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I haven't been in London.
And they were sleeping on the embankment, right along the Thames.
Yeah.
But they've moved them out of sight like they do here. There are lots of homeless in London.
Yeah, God, I'm sorry.
In spite of their wonderful system of welfare, which the conservatives tried to destroy.
Yeah. Well, you see that happening over here too, right?
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, there's been an
Thatcher
assault
and Reagan were following each other around to see who could be the worst. No names, please.
Yeah, right.
Worst dash, who could lead the way to hell.
To do all this.
Push people into hell.
Yeah. Wonder where it's all leading, I wonder, what do you think?
I think it's leading to some kind of protest because I think human biology is what we can depend on because people can only take so much and then they look for a better way. Mm-hmm. And you can only oppress them.
You think it's on a world scale?
It's on a world scale. Well, you know that.
I mean, the
capitalism.
The governments count less and less now. Who's running the show are a few corporate entities that are running and walking with big league boots on this planet,
Who were those two people who put out the People's Almanac, I think? Do you remember they had, in one of their editions, they, like all almanacs have a listing of countries alphabetically?
Yeah.
Well, they listed some of the world's great corporations like Esso was them and IBM. They listed them as if they were countries.
Yes, right.
And they described them and they had their flags and their mottos. And some of their, the income of some of those companies was larger than the gross national product of a lot of countries.
Well, I think it is. I think I saw a piece I don't know if it was in Corton's book, where he said when corporations rule the world or something, but 51 of the largest economies in the world are corporations now. It's more than, than
So where do you think
states.
that's leading?
I don't know. It's leading to some sort of one of the things it's doing is Bucky used to talk, he used to talk about because in a certain sense the nationalism and the old, dividing it up into all these different countries has an artificiality to it. And it may be taking us to where there will begin to develop, more than just national identities that people, begin to get universal values. It might be a positive thing, maybe.
Universal stock values come first.
But I mean,
that's what they're coming.
But
I see what you're saying.
And the back of Grunch of Giants, the one that was the follow. I just read it when I was overseas myself just recently, and the one that was from Critical Path, and they said Applewhite, who had been his editor and that sort of thing. He said that this is paradoxical because you got this development, but it is at the same time the first time you've got a major entity that's subsuming nationalism within a larger global context.
No, we had the Roman Empire.
Well, that's true.
But, and that was one of the most great horrors and great paradigms for future horrors. But it's being done on the backs of, the high-paying jobs, high-paying in quotes, are just migrating so that first it was Japan, I guess, and then wages were too high in Japan, so then it went to Korea, and now the Pacific. Then it has to go to Central America and Southern Asia, where maybe people start paying for a chance to work, like some music groups have to pay the club owners to get in, because there are so many groups who already.
Vanity corporations, right? Vanity Corp, right?
Yeah.
I saw Gephardt. He seems to be peeling off from the Democrats,
Well,
and I don't know if he's going to be able to, but he had this thing, and he said, in China. He was talking about human rights, like prison labor and things, and he said they're going to have to start standing up to that.
Yeah, prison labor. There is.
Yeah, and you know, and that because they're, and he said it very nicely in this book, Bill Greider's book. What is it called? Have you seen it? It's called. It's subtitled, I know, The Manic Logic of Global Capitalism. One World, Ready or Not. It's really a good book. And he said that, you know, he said, and Gephardt, who was maybe a serious challenge to Mr. Gore and so forth, but he said that it's not going to be any good. We have the ability to produce an overabundance of food, of things, material goods and services. It's the demand side, and people aren't going to be, what good is it going to do if we can create an overabundance of everything, and you've only got 500 million people in the world that can buy anything.
What's happening to, is a Labor Party trying to establish itself in the States? What do you think of that idea?
I don't know what's going to be happening in the States. It's hard for me to judge what's going to be going on over here. I think somebody's going to have to address these things are going on, you know, sort of beyond the traditional political process, I think, you know. I think they're going to have to move towards something like a binary economy. They're going to have to democratize some of the ownership of the capital assets to distribute income and free people up. That's my read on things. And you know, that's my thing. I don't know. I like this binary. I've always liked that Louis Kelso, that binary economic thing. This beginning, it gets bypassed in most people's thinking because it doesn't seem to jive.
What is that? I don't know.
Well, it's just in general the idea of expanding ownership of capital assets and democratizing ownership rather than doing away with private property. Expand ownership.
Worker ownership.
Well, worker and or general citizenry ownership is a way of distributing income, building marketing, building leisure.
Well, stockholders think they own corporations too.
Yeah. Well, it's you know, I got my own sort of thing. You got these kind of patterns. I don't think the traditional patterns are going to hold. There's time for some sort of a new paradigm, some sort of a new shift. It's an overworked term, but there's something new that's on the horizon. Downsizing has been growing, but creating these.
I like the way the stock market goes up whenever the unemployment figures go up.
Yeah, isn't it something?
It's wonderful.
Right, it's really something. Well, listen, we could go on talking.
Okay.
Truly, we run out of time. But listen, it's good to see you. Congratulations on the recent thing. Glad all the old work is out now. They got that.
Yeah.
And it's been your pleasure to have the perception of Tuli Kupferberg, who is one of the legendary forces behind the group, the Fugs, and it's really been a pleasure to talk to him. He's also a cable producer here in New York City. When do you air?
Channel 34 every other Wednesday, 10 p.m., and it's called Revolting News, and what we do is whatever we want.
All right. That's it.
And let's see, I'll give you one date so you can set your calendar.
Yeah.
We will be on, our next show will be June 4th, but I'm sure this will have passed by then. But this is 1997. You count every 2 Wednesdays and be there or be square. Right?
All right. Good enough. Okay. It's been a pleasure to have that perception. We invite you to stay tuned. There'll be more general topic area momentarily.
Thank you.
Tuli, once again, thanks for all the work over the years. It's really a huge and important body of work that you put together with, you know, the other members of Fugs. Glad things are going well, and the music should spread throughout the world.
Our pleasure.
Okay. We're coming right back. Please stay tuned. Thank you.